Hi folks, with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the Western legal system. I know it's boring, but try and stay with this because it's critically important. Look at the way they're going after Trump and everyone who was around Trump during his presidency. Look at the way they use the legal system to crush political opposition or to crush people that are become major influences, say, on social media, just because they have the wrong views or the wrong opinions, or they're asking difficult questions. The courts are being used in a fully partisan, politicized sense. You know, a good recent example of that is the way the Colorado court took the leading candidate for the opposition party, took him off the off the ballot. I mean, can you get more blatant corruption of the law? Now, just before I go into looking at some examples of some of the judges that the Democrats are appointing and have been appointing, not just at federal but at state level, the absolute bedrock requirement of the Western legal system. When I say the Western legal system, I'm talking about, you know, the Anglosphere in particular, but others as well. Such as United States, Canada, Britain, Australia, and so on. The bedrock requirement is that the judges are independent. They're not an extension of or part of the political process. They're independent, and they can make judicial decisions based on the facts and on tested evidence in a court. And the judge must be the independent arbiter. Now, our entire legal system rests on that framework. Take that away, and the legal system is nothing more than a partisan bit of ideological bullshit, which is what the Democrats and the globalists are trying to, and largely succeeding, by the way, are trying to turn it into. So they're putting not only people who are activists into judicial positions, but people who believe they should be activists. They are there to tear down our system, not to make judgments based on facts and evidence. So they're putting ideological hacks and goons and flunkies and stooges into judicial positions. And the whole system was never designed to deal with that. Now, we need to either redesign the system so that the judges can be arbitrarily dismissed, or we need to go back to the bedrock principles of the law, which is completely impartial, completely independent, non-activist judges who can make decisions based on, well, the law, obviously, but based on the facts and the tested evidence that comes before them. Now, the Colorado court, for example, made a decision that even though that Donald Trump hasn't been charged or convicted of insurrection, we'll just say that he was guilty of insurrection, which then allows us to then make a unique and fanciful interpretation of a section of the Constitution, which then allows us to take him off the ballot. So, I mean, brazenly activist. But we need to just, look at the sort of judges that the Democrats are putting into knowingly. I mean, they're out desperately hunting for any radicalized, law student or anything, anyone who's getting into the law who's fully radicalized and is prepared to act in a radicalized manner and prepared to put these people into judicial positions. Now, here's one court. I'm just looking at it here. The judge is or was rather a lesbian rights activist, and was very active in that area. Was associated with a lot of very activist NGOs, and has written a lot of material that you can see online, denouncing all white society as evil, straight white men as Nazis. The list goes on and on. Now, that would disqualify, certainly if I was picking judges, that would disqualify anyone to hold judicial office. If you're that partisan and you're that committed to activism, and this person was up to their neck in activism, and very specifically, gay or the lesbian activism, and they've been given a position as a judge on a superior court. The next one is a Jewish feminist activist. She's straight, but very caught up in Jewish activist issues. We're surrounded by Nazis and all that sort of stuff. Very active in what she sees as a society where women are oppressed and have been for centuries, and there must be restorative justice for women and so on. And she's been given a position on again in a superior court. He's a man, Jewish, and again very much caught up in Jewish issues, and a very prominent activist in that area. Very much a believer in restorative justice. Very much a believer that straight white male Gentile Christians have been oppressing everyone else, and slavery and this sort of stuff, and very much on side with the compensation type thing. The Constitution was written by a bunch of old white men who were all Nazis, and it's just white man's law, and hey, so that's a Christian Gentile law. Who cares about that? Here's the next guy. He's straight, and I don't know if he's a Christian or not, but he's straight. Married with children, and he's very much on board with again the activism and restorative justice, all that sort of stuff. I don't know if he is actually on board with it. His children sort of work in the state government, public service, that sort of thing. So I don't know whether he's just going along with things because his children are being well looked after and handsomely rewarded. He's got useless, wasteful children who have been given very serious, well-paid, prestigious jobs. So a bit harder to tell with him. Has he just been got at or bribed? I don't think he's an activist just looking at it, but he's certainly go along with it. Here's the next one, is a gay activist, very much involved in gay activism, doing the NGO thing, black gay activism. This guy's white, but very much caught up in that whole activist thing. Again, very much into compensation for slavery, restorative justice, very much into victim and oppressor type ideology. And now that's just a small snapshot, but these are the sort of people that are being put into judicial positions by the Democrats. They're aggressively, at state and federal level, aggressively putting these people all over the legal system. I would argue this is part of the Civil War. This is the Civil War. This is what Civil War looks like. Because our entire legal system, the bedrock, the fundamental requirement is independent, based on the facts, based on tested evidence. That's it. Now that's all being torn to pieces. And so whoever has the most activists in the most courts wins the Civil War. So we need to really rethink how we're doing. Either we go back to the original basis of facts, law, codified law, clearly codified law, evidence, and so on, or we have escape routes for people that get caught up in activist courts, such as if you don't like the verdict, the government has to pay, for your appeal, or things like that. We really have to rethink it. Or judges can be easily removed, and so there can be whichever political party comes in to just get rid of all you guys are politically and ideologically tainted. You're all gone. And by the way, we'll be looking over your judgments that you've made, and we will be prosecuting you if you've applied ideology rather than facts, and in effect retry the cases. Once people realise there are consequences for doing these sorts of things, then there may be an idea. Well, look, I don't want to be a judge. I mean, I want to make ideological decisions, but I could end up in prison for that sort of thing. So the safest way to do it is the separation of powers, completely independent judges who are obligated, fully and absolutely obligated, to rely on the facts presented to them and the testing of evidence, of course, in testing of those facts in in court. The ideological or restorative justice and so on, judges like that cannot be appointed. And if they happen to make it through, there must be a mechanism for removal that doesn't politicise, the very appointment itself. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.